Uttar Pradesh is voting today as Karnataka's Chief Justice will now be hearing the hijab fight, the battle over and for and against the hijab. Is there a connection between the two states? Will one have an impact on the other? There is, of course, by now familiar polarization and division over the issue. Let's take a look at the key developments as we continue our focus and ask how the hijab row in Karnataka may play out electorally in Uttar Pradesh. Why and how do we explain the timing of the eruption of this battle as young people carrying saffron shawls collide with young women draped in the hijab? This politics of polarization suits extreme voices on all sides. Asad Owaisi, who is also contesting seats in UP, has lashed out saying that BJP is not letting our daughters wear the hijab. Liberals, who have often been critics of right-wing groups, find themselves uncomfortable. Should they be standing up for the right of young girls to wear the hijab? Or is this actually a debate about the right to education? The polarization in the south could mean a gain, by the way, for the BJP in the north. Do we see those connections? To talk a little bit about the politics of the hijab, not just in terms of personal politics, but also in terms of the politics of polarization, let's introduce our panel today. Tavleen Singh, senior journalist, is on the program with us. Tavleen had a very strong tweet saying that women and young girls should not be advocating for the hijab in modern India. We'll understand more from her in a moment from now. We're also joined by a student today and an activist, Nida Parveen. And as you can see, Nida is wearing a hijab she's been wearing from a very young age. We'll ask her what it means to her. Also joining us from Uttar Pradesh today is senior journalist Sudhir Mishra, who will give us a sense of what's happening on the ground. Who will this polarization suit? Does what's happening in Karnataka have a kind of impact on the ground in terms of pitting Hindus against Muslims? Because, by the way, that is what's happening in Karnataka. And also joining us on the program today is Atiq Rahman, who is an Islamic scholar. Now, let me start with you, Tavleen. Two aspects really to the question I want to ask you. You have, of course, spoken out on Twitter against the hijab. But is that really the fight here? Is the fight about whether you're against or anti the hijab? Or is it about whether girls should be allowed to go to school at any cost or not?
Okay, I am totally against the hijab. I think it's an old-fashioned practice that should have been removed ages ago. And if the Muslims were more confident about their religion, they would have removed it. What is this nonsense about veiling women, etc.? And we've seen the consequences of that in Afghanistan and in the Islamic State, right? Whereas Saudi Arabia is actually moving forward. We now have in India, which actually had a very advanced liberal form of Islam, moving backwards. Now, the reason why it worried me and why I was tweeting about it is I've been noticing on my travels in southern India for the past 15 or 20 years, a kind of radicalization of which the first sign is a change in the dress. And the men grow beards, the women get into hijab. And I promise you, I went to Coimbatore and the women there who had always worn saris was suddenly wearing salwar kurta and hijab and trying to speak Urdu. And it was from that time that I have been observing what's been going on in southern India. And for me, organizations like the Popular Front of India, who chopped off that professor's hand, represent a really ugly kind of radicalization in southern India, which I think is being reflected in this quite needless row. I mean, why did they suddenly, these girls, decide that they couldn't go to school unless they wore a hijab? What is that? What has the hijab got to do with going to school?
Okay, two things to you, Tavleen. One is, when we talk about the so-called modesty as associated with women, that's not particular to Islam. You have the concept of the ghungat, you have the dupatta, which, many of us wear aesthetically now. What was its original concept? Its original concept was to cover a woman's breasts. It's not particular only to Islam, the idea that women should be draped in modesty.
It's about time that men stopped deciding what women wanted to cover and what they didn't want to cover. So the Islamic idea is that men should, put their heads down and not look at a woman, etc. That's 1,400 years old or whatever. Forget it. Move with the times. It's a practice that I have no time for at all. And one of the most horrific things I've seen, I can't remember whether it was in Bihar or UP, were little girls aged between 5 and 6, covered in hijab. I thought I was in Saudi Arabia or something. This is India. It is not our culture. We must call it out.
Okay, PKD Nambiar, a political analyst, commentator, is also with us. But I have one more question for you, Tavleen. When you talk about the kind of extremism that you believe all these visual images of the hijab represent, what about the other images of the saffron shawls, of all these young men wearing saffron shawls, clambering up on a pole to put a Bhagwa Jhanda and so on? There is a kind of polarization that is playing out in both communities, isn't there?
Well, I'm sorry, I have no time for the guys with the saffron shawls, etc. And I actually tweeted and said, that's not what we want. We want a conversation about this. But these guys are just thugs, as far as I'm concerned, hoodlums. They're not even worth discussing.
Well, here's the question. All of this, you said, why are the girls suddenly bringing this up? The girls say for years they were able to wear the hijab to their schools. We even had some of those girls on this program, and they say that it's the BJP government in Karnataka that has suddenly changed their position. What impact will all of this have on the state that is in fact voting today is a question we must ask ourselves. Let me, I can see Nidha, and Nidha, we've heard from Tavleen on the hijab. How old were you? आप कितनी उम्र की थी जब आपने हिजाब पहनना शुरू करा?
So I started wearing hijab when I thought that I need to wear. From my very child, from my 4 years old, I was always compelling my mother to give me a hijab, but she wasn't ever, because she told me it's not time, you can wear it afterwards. After you studied what hijab is, you can wear it. And I studied in a Muslim management school, and I didn't ever face the question of hijab because I studied in a Muslim management where majority are Muslims, but others are also there.
But why do you want to wear something? I just want to understand, that men don't have to. मुझे तो बहुत चिढ़ मचती है किसी भी धर्म में अगर औरतों को कुछ करना पड़े जो आदमियों को ना करना पड़े.
Okay, so it's actually something which makes me spiritually act. It's a kind of spiritual act. If I feel like even when I wear hijab, I feel like that it's I'm getting more attached to the God, attached to the Allah. And it was till my 12th standard, it was a kind of obligation to Allah. But after 12th, I moved to the Delhi for my bachelor's degree in Delhi University, and I studied in Hindu college. From very first day, I started to get the questions on hijab. Daily I have witnessed every questions on hijab. Why? And they just want the answer of male oppression. I just found it, and after that, my hijab was not just a kind of obligation to Allah, but as it's a response to Islamophobia, which I have found in my campuses. And sometimes I think that this online education have in a way have lessened our fight.
So you're saying something quite interesting. You're saying that hijab is an assertion of your identity as a Muslim. It isn't any longer religious. It is also an assertion at a time when you feel there's a larger Islamophobia. Atiq or Rahman, before I come to PKD Nambiar and Sudhir ji, if you want to just add to that, is this the fight Tavleen has raised? Is this the fight that the Muslim community needs? I think that's the point. Is your energy best served on this fight?
Need to look into this from different aspects, As Nida has pointed out, Nida must be coming from a background where her mother at a particular age, she thought that she should not go by the hijab and go by the hijab at a particular age. Yarin, since I live in Mumbai, Tavleen ji, you should understand the cities of India, the cosmopolitan nature of our cities, and especially Mumbai, is different from UP, Bihar, MP, and Rajasthan. Here in Barkha, you must be better knowing that our girls, Muslim girls, go to Christian colleges, Christian schools, wherein nothing beyond a particular uniform is allowed. No scarf, no burqa, no bindi, no mendi, nothing. In fact, The rings and the bindis and the mehndi are, if the students are going, they are made to stand out. So seeking education is more important for city girls, may it Hindu, Muslim, any religion. The seeking education. Now here in the controversy, Barkha, I think has been erupted by intimidation. Intimidation by the Hindutva elements, saffron-clad hooligans who are intimidating the administration to take steps against the hijab, which was not there since so many years. In our schools and colleges, I have studied in a Maharashtra college in Mumbai, if you are aware of. 99% Muslim girls go there. They are in full burqa when they are roaming on the streets. Once they enter the campus, they go to the ladies' common room and remove their burqa. It's the choice. If you want to, argue in the courts on religious grounds, it's your choice. It's your choice if you want to wear it in
Okay, I hear you. Let me just bring in Tavleen for a quick response, and then I actually want to look at the politics, the larger politics behind this. Tavleen, this idea of choice, it's a very loaded word in the gender conversation. God knows we're all products of our socialization on a daily basis. But yes, you do hear this being said again and again. It is a woman's right to choose, and you or I or even Atiq Saab are no one to tell a woman what to wear. I understand that as children, that choice is not informed, but there are many adult Muslim women too who are choosing in a later stage of their life to wear a hijab.
Who are brainwashed from the time they're small little girls to wear this because, as Nida explained, it brings you closer to God. Now, I'm a Sikh, right? And at the age of 14, I made my first. I don't like religions that give you rules and tell you that God wants you to grow your hair. And I cut my hair, and my mother had a fit and said, "Oh, God will be, upset." And I said, "Is God a hairdresser that he's worried about my hair?" I mean, surely you should be strong enough, if you do believe in God, to have the conviction that God is not a stupid creature. We hope, that God is not worried about, wrapping women up in layers of cloth. It's wrong.
But how do you separate? And I think here Nidha made an interesting point, Tavleen. And sorry, Sudhirji and PKD, coming to you right after this. How do you separate the larger environment where there is a sense of a growing Islamophobia and underrepresentation in public spaces? A lot of Muslim women I've been speaking to say the more they tell us not to do this, the more we want to do it.
If they want to do it as adults and they think there's Islamophobia, and there is Islamophobia all over the world after 9/11. And it became even more pronounced after the caliphate and, after the Taliban began their rule in Afghanistan, because that showed the extreme to which this Islamic idea can go. So in Afghanistan, a woman she cannot earn a living because she can't step out without a man accompanying her and without wearing a burqa. And look what is happening at the moment in Afghanistan. And I actually tweeted about that and said, it's so weird. Here we are, we're going backwards and actually looking out for an Afghan model instead of saying, this is not. Do you remember Macron saying, maybe in Muslim countries, they, marry girls off at the age of 9, pas chez nous, not in our house. And I think it's time that we said, not here. No, this is not an Islamic country.
Well, I think the French model doesn't quite apply to India because there is visible religiosity everywhere, by the way, including in parliament, including in, and including in Uttar Pradesh, which we're talking about today, where the chief minister actually does wear saffron robes. So I think we have to look at that permeation of religion everywhere in public spaces. Mr. Nambiar, the timing. You can't help but wonder, although the Karnataka government says that it's the PFI that has started this, cynical people look at the fact that UP is voting today, that the politics of polarization do help the BJP, and they always have.
Barkha, in this case, that may not be true, because if you really look at a little bit of history of it, and I would rather say that I was listening to Nita, I wanted to start from there. It's really good that we are having this debate. There are people like Nita is saying that it is an essential religious practice of Islam, but there is no evidence. Tell me the first generation Muslims or the second generation Muslims or the many generations of Indian Muslims have never been wearing a burqa or, for that matter, to a hijab. So it all started becoming a popular culture or a popular practice only after the oil have discovered in the Gulf countries, and the people have started going there for their earning across the world. The Gulf countries have started getting attracted from the people from all across. So it's an Arabian culture. Burqa is a part of an Arabian culture, as Tavleen ji said. It's not an Indian culture. It's not, forget about a Hindu or anything. It's not an Indian culture. It's a burqa is a part of an Arabian culture and was never there in India. So you look at from that history point. Now suddenly, from the last 20-30 years, I'll tell you, in the Malabar coast of the place where from Malappuram to the Konkan region, there is a complete demographic changes taking place. Predominantly, I mean, the huge amount of population growth, of Muslim growth, and you also need to see, you're one of the senior most journalists in the country. You need to just check it. Out of the 100+ people who have joined in ISIS from India, more than 56 people of these ISIS have joined from.
But what's your point? Your point is that this is a cultural import. Your point is it's a cultural import.
It's not only cultural import. It is also a fundamentalist. The growth of fundamentalist, Muslim fundamentalist in this particular region is causing all these problems. So who is PFI? PFI is earlier the band, the SIMI. The SIMI became SDPI. SDPI became PFI, and then the Campus Front has come in. So they are already creating a culture wherein, and it's not there. In fact, I'm a person from Kannur. Kannur is the heart of the Malabar region. I studied with almost 35-40% of my classmates were Muslims. But I have never seen in 25 years back when I was in the school, nobody I have seen wearing a.
But I want to come. I hear the different views on the hijab. I want to come to the politics. Sudhir ji, ये जो हमें दृश्य मिल रहे हैं, beaming across television screens, viral on WhatsApp, viral everywhere. You know, the image, for example, of the young woman clad in a burqa on a scooter being jeered by men around her. I think we have that video somewhere. If we can please take it. There you see. Now, you know, depending on your point of view, कुछ लोग कहेंगे वाह, और कुछ लोग इस इमेज को लेके कहेंगे ये देखिए ये मुस्लिम एक्सट्रीमिस्ट हैं, और ये पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ पोलराइजेशन का उत्तर प्रदेश में भी असर पड़ेगा. अब तक आप क्या देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि आज ओवैसी जी हैं, उन्होंने भी मुद्दा उठाया है, वो भी कई जगह कैंपेन कर रहे हैं, कंटेस्ट कर रहे हैं उत्तर प्रदेश में. ये पोलराइजेशन क्या आपको यूपी कैंपेन में नजर आ रहा है? योगी जी ने पहले भी कई बारी इस पे रिलीजन के मुद्दे पे, इस्लाम के मुद्दे पे स्वाइप्स लिए हैं व्हेन इट कम्स टू द समाजवादी पार्टी एंड अदर्स.
कि अभी जो ये ताजा मसला है हिजाब को लेकर जो कर्नाटक में हुआ है, उसे लेकर मुझे लग रहा है कि पहली बार मैं देख रहा हूं कि जो हिंदू लोग हैं उनमें भी जो उनमें इसको लेकर नाराजगी है, वो भी ये देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि हर आदमी एक बेटी को देख रहा है. मैं देख रहा हूँ जैसे सोशल मीडिया पे कर रहा हूँ कि लोग इस पूरे उसको कैसे देख रहे हैं. अगर आप हिजाब के बारे में मेरी राय पूछते हैं तो मैं कहता कि हिजाब भी गलत है और घूंघट भी गलत है, क्योंकि एक पितृसत्ता है जो कि महिलाओं को, लड़कियों को अपनी प्रॉपर्टी समझती है और अपनी संपत्ति समझती है और नहीं चाहती कि दूसरों की उस पर निगाह पड़े, तो वो उसको ढक के और कवर करके रखना चाहते हैं. ये जो एक आदिम सोच है, तो वो हिंदू हो या मुसलमान हो, दोनों में हो. लेकिन यहाँ पे जो मसला हुआ है वो बहुत ही वो सबको खराब लग रहा है, क्योंकि कोई नहीं चाहता कि स्कूल, कॉलेज और विद्यालय और क्लासरूम वो जय श्री राम और अल्लाह अकबर के नारों के लिए हो. ये आपका अपना निजी आपका वो धार्मिक जुड़ाव है जिसको आपको अपने घर में फॉलो करना चाहिए, और उसको लेकर इस तरह की चीजें नहीं होनी चाहिए. लोगों के मन में ये बात आ रही है, लोग इस तरह के डिवाइड से उठ चुके हैं, और अगर इस चुनाव में आप कह रहे हैं, अगर आज वोट पड़ रहे हैं या इसके बाद जो वोट पड़ने वाले हैं उस पर असर की अगर आप बात करते हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि जिसको डिवाइड होना था और जितना डिवाइड होना था वो ऑलरेडी डिवाइडेड है. जो मान लीजिए अगर मेरी एक लीनिंग है, मेरी एक चाह है, तो हम ऑलरेडी पहले से ये जो हो रहा है, ये जो चीजें हो रही है, ये फ्यूचर के लिए है. अगर ये क्लासरूम में जा रहा है ना, तो ये भविष्य को खराब करने वाली चीज है. ये इस इलेक्शन के लिए नहीं, ये आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए गड़बड़ चीज है.
आपने एक बात कही कि घूंघट भी आपको घूंघट और हिजाब दोनों ही एक पेट्रियार्कल कल्चर के प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, पर आपने एक और भी बात कही कि आप सेंस कर रहे हैं दैट इवन अमंग हिंदूज देयर इज अ काइंड ऑफ डिस्कम्फर्ट सीइंग दीज इमेजेस। क्या इससे, अगर ये क्लोज कॉन्टेस्ट है, आपको तो पता ही है योगी जी की किस तरह के बयान आए हैं, काइंड ऑफ सबटेक्स्ट इज ऑलवेज एंटी मुस्लिम जब उनको सूट करे, तो इस पे आपको लगता है कि ये मुद्दा अब यूपी चुनाव में भी नजर आएगा?
मुझे लग रहा है कि हिजाब बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा नहीं बनेगा। हिजाब उतना बड़ा मुद्दा नहीं बनेगा जितनी और जो यहाँ पे लोकल दूसरी चीजें हैं, जो दूसरे इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं, वो ज्यादा बड़ा मुद्दा होगा। क्योंकि उल्टा हिजाब को लेकर लोग थोड़ा सा क्योंकि सबकी अपनी बेटियां हैं, बच्चे हैं, वो दूसरे राज्यों में पढ़ने जाते हैं। मैं मिडिल क्लास की बात करूं अगर, तो उनकी चिंता ये है कि अगर सब जगह इस तरह से दंगा फसाद होगा तो उनके बच्चे, जैसे लखनऊ का है, वो बच्चा बेंगलोर में पढ़ता है या मुंबई में पढ़ता है, अगर वहां कुछ होता है तो उसकी चिंता यहाँ होती है। कोई नहीं चाहता कि इस तरह के कन्फ्रंटेशन पैदा हो, खासतौर से बच्चों के बीच में। इसलिए हिजाब को उतनी ज्यादा, मुझे नहीं लगता कि हिजाब को लेकर बहुत ज्यादा जनता आक्रामक होगी। ये एक पॉलिटिकली मोटिवेटेड है दोनों तरफ से, वो वहां पर तो रहेगा, लेकिन मुझे नहीं लगता कि ये आम लोगों का मसला बहुत बड़ा बन पाए।
Okay, let me go to Tavleen. Tavleen, as we were looking at those pictures of Yogi Adityanath in saffron robes, it's very difficult to convince Muslims, young Muslims, that this is about not allowing religion to enter official and public spaces. When you have a chief minister in saffron robes, when you have members of parliament who come in saffron robes, so why, they would ask, is school different? Why is school different from parliament? Why is school different from the chief minister's office?
I agree with Sudhirji that it shouldn't be in school because there is political polarization on a very dangerous level going on. And my own view is that Yogi Adityanath should be in his mutt. What is he doing in politics? Surely he's given up. The saffron robes in India are the robes of renunciation, of asceticism. Sadhus wear them, sants wear them. So if you want to be, he should make up his mind. I actually began to lose faith in Narendra Modi when he appointed Yogi Adityanath as the chief minister of UP, because I really believe it's wrong for religious people or people who are claiming to be religious to be in a political position of such importance as that of the chief minister of one of our biggest state. Because there is no way that he can represent the Muslim population in Uttar Pradesh. He makes it clear just from his clothes. And, he came into politics on the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. So as far as I'm concerned, Yogi Adityanath, should go back to the mutt in Gorakhpur.
Well, he might actually be making history if he wins as a second-time chief minister instead of going back to the mutt. PKD Nambiar, you said a lot about the hijab. What about the visible Hindu religiosity in political and public office? What do you say about that?
See, I think from the last few days, people have been talking about the fundamental rights of the people: what to wear, when to wear, where to wear, and how to wear, and all of them. I think our constitution do give us the opportunity and the right to practice a religion, to wear what you wanted to wear, eat what you wanted to eat. But there are places where it is there are code of conduct which has been created. So schools are not the places where you need to wear your religion on your sleeves. It's the place where you are going for an education. It is the place where your character formation is getting created.
So a school and a parliament, a chief minister's office. If we are going to take the approach that religion should be in the mosque and in the mandir, then religion should be just there, and not, if we are going to keep quoting France, then that has to apply to all public institutions, right, Mr. Nambiar?
Yeah, can I?
Yes.
If there is a dress code is there in the parliament, of course, every MPs have to wear that dress code. There is no doubt about it, and I don't have any. There is no question of that. That if there is a dress code which is meant for the parliamentarians, definitely, whether it is a saint or a Keralite or a Tamilian or whatever it may be, they should all be added to that particular dressing. But when there is nothing like that, and comparing our parliament to a school may not be an appropriate thing. Here we are talking about an age wherein there is a character formation. We also need to look at it why this is all being happening. It's basically You are injecting poison in young minds by imposing such a rigorous.
Okay, no, I take your point that the
and
idea
I also
of
one
the
more
uniform.
Thing, one more thing I wanted to tell you. 1 second. Tavleen ji was talking about where is the space for a saint to be in power. Maybe in today's generation there may be such kind of a discussion can take place. But please do remember the great Janak, the father of Sita Maya. He was the first Rajarshi, the Raja who was also a Rishi. So the concept of the great saints becoming a part of power or even in power is nothing new in India, which is age old. And this, I just started with Rajarshi Janak, but I can give you hundreds of examples who were a part of the power or who were powering, who were either guiding the Rajas. So it has been a part of our culture and our value system. Our Vedas and our Puranas gives you enough opportunity, and you are much senior.
Before we take that back to Tavleen, I just want to go to Atiq or Rahman and then to Nida. The idea of the uniform, right? It's one thing, Atiq Saab, for Nida to say that, in Hindu college, she felt that there was an Islamophobic response to her hijab. But in school, there is the idea of the school uniform. So, are we saying that we don't believe in the school uniform? Atiq Saab?
No, not that, Barkha. As I earlier told you, that our Muslim girls go to Christian schools in Mumbai, and there is no this thing. They do not demand anything in the name of religion. Herein also, I am trying to tell you that the poisoning of the mind, as Mr. Nambiar is also, pinpointing, the poisoning of the minds have taken place. Now, I wonder, Barkha, whether you, me, and other panelists, our society after 70 long years of independence, do we really cherish this in the name of liberty? Are we addressing the claims of liberty? Liberty, I am telling you, a word which is very much in consonance with our constitution. It's one of the ideals of our constitution. Are we giving liberty to our individuals, these school-going children, our parliamentarians, our chief ministers, to have their say, to have their uniform, to have their dress, to have their eating habits? No. We are, getting embroiled in the controversy created by intimidated passions of political parties. This is my concern, Barkha.
Okay.
And in the long run, the poisoning of the minds will not give us a good society or very harmonious balancing of what we used to say Hindu-Muslim unity or Ganga Jamuni.
Okay, PKD, briefly, I have to go to Nida and then Tavleen has the last word.
I wanted to just go from the point my co-panelist has said. Let's for a moment assume that burqa is an essential religious practice, whatever we are talking about. But then there is a problem. In the Sabrimala case in 2018, the Supreme Court specifically said that any such practice must also be in tune with our constitutional ethos. So we have to examine whether the practice of wearing a hijab or a burqa is in tune with the constitutional values. So constitution is the supreme, the religious practice and religious values are equally important, but at the end of the day, it should be going along with the constitutional values. Now coming to while examining, we will understand that this practice is contrary to what constitution envisages for our women. This is what even Tavleen ji was telling. So it's
the Sabrimala verdict by the Supreme Court was not accepted by any party in the south, as you know, in Kerala, as you know, PKD, right? It was not accepted, and that's the point.
It is the left front government has even exported the woman there. The woman of the state did not accepted it, but the only thing which was the left government, the chief minister took a strong stand to get the woman there. So
and I'm just saying the mere fact of the court saying it did not create a kind of public consensus on it is the only point I'm making. Sabrimala is a good example of in fact how the law is sometimes just not enough. I don't even know how the courts are going to settle this matter, because now the courts are going to have to decide on what is an essential practice of Islam, which is actually where we are. Nida, if you were to come in and elaborate on how for you this has now become a statement against Islamophobia, almost more or as much as it's a religious practice. Why? Why is it important for you? So many other Muslim women do not wear a hijab, right? And they are probably making a bigger statement. We had a commercial pilot on the program yesterday. She's making her own statement against Islamophobia without having to wear a hijab.
Yeah. So, to Mr. PKT Nambiar, first to his response, I would say this. I never said it is an essential wear in Islam. It's actually how the people interpret it. Okay, this sentence, people wear niqab. I don't wear niqab. But
Yeah.
I wear this. This is the spiritual act for me. I believe this. And so this is my faith. And to second point, that generation before generation, Muslims in Kerala don't wear hijab. What rubbish is this? My grandmother's mother, everyone wore it, generation to generation wore it. And my grandmother's mother, grandmother, she is a headmistress of the, she had first as headmistress of the school in first built here. So it's nothing to say about this. She wore the hijab. But the thing is that in days to days, I mean, can you say that before 70 years you will be wearing this coat and suit and will be sitting here? That if time to time people wear hijab in different ways. In before 10 years, I was not wearing this kind of hijab. I was wearing a corn scarf. It's changed by time to time. There is nothing about this. We should be every time.
But can you respond to the idea of the uniform? A lot of people are saying, all right, wear a hijab when you're an adult and you're making that choice. But in the school classroom, there has to be the idea of a uniform, which would apply, by the way, to Hindu students who want to come in with a tilak on their head, which should apply to anyone who wants to come in very visibly. You know, it should apply to all religions. I am not at all focused on one religion.
Yeah, so it's that I learned in a Muslim school, and people used to wear the bindi and everything. It was a Muslim management school. Christians used to wear their robes. Everyone wear that. It's not kind of a hindrance. There wasn't any kind of hindrance to it. And I strongly believe that school and the very little students, these are the places where we learn the multiculturalism, where we learn to accept ourselves.
That's another interesting view, and I want to give Tavleen the last word. But Mr. Nambiar, briefly, that why shouldn't the classroom become a place to learn about others' religions instead of sanitizing them out of the classroom?
No, I think religion is being taught in the schools, whether it be in most across India, whether the life of Nabi, whether it is a history of Islam or the Ramayana and Mahabharata and etc. have been taught, whether it is in history or in other books across India. So I think wearing a hijab or a saffron scarf is not the one thing which will be making you a better religious person, or as I said, it is not the place. Schools are not the place where you need to. Basically, you are injecting poison in young minds by imposing such a regressive religious practice. I wanted to also, Nita, I wanted to ask Nita through you, Kerala Muslim Education Society, which is considered to be the largest with more than 150 institutions, and which is the largest educational institutions in Kerala. It's a Muslim education society. It's which banned this practice. Why nobody was objecting to it? There is a petition in the last 2 months before. There is a school police cadet program in Kerala, which is globally an acclaimed project. A friend of mine who is an IPS officer, he started that particular project. Hundreds of Muslim girls are there as a cadet. One girl went to the High Court and said that, I wanted to wear my religious dress as a cadet. Is it acceptable? So even the LDF government, which is the communist government, even objected to it in the High Court. So the idea is that what we need to understand, that it is high time that we are objectifying our young girls as a sexual symbol for the people, as an object.
Okay. This is the problem. This is the problem that this debate on hypersexualization versus hijab is as old as the times. I have to close. Nida, you want to briefly respond on the Kerala point, and then Tavleen has to get the last word. Briefly, yeah.
Okay, it happened long before, and it was all about being a progressive. Some people always want to conceive the westernization and to be progressive, and it was banned the niqab, not the hijab. It was niqab. They banned in the college, and I'm actually against it. It won't be that. It's a choice of the women how she is assert herself is by niqab. Maybe the spiritual act to her might be niqab. So it's up to her, and I actually against.
So you disagree with the Kerala Muslims themselves banning the niqab in college? You disagree with that?
Yes, I disagree with that.
All right, Tavleen, last word.
I am so saddened to hear a young woman speaking in favor of covering herself up like that. My grandmother, as opposed to yours, was in parda. Actually, Hindu women, Sikh women across North India were in parda. They've shaken it off because, as Mishra ji said, girl, that you mustn't be seen. Surely you've got to outgrow this. I mean, Hindus have got rid of many bad things.
Yeah.
Only the Muslims that seem to be going backwards into some century, into some mythical Medina where the Prophet lived. I mean, it is very worrying, and there will be more Islamophobia the more you go backwards instead of forwards.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Sorry, Atiq, I'm totally out of time, but this conversation will continue. It is in the public domain now. And yes, we will have to see consequences of this debate, both socially and electorally. Let's not lose sight of the fact that it can't be a coincidence that all of this is happening when one of the most significant elections is underway in Uttar Pradesh. PKD Nambiar, Nida Parveen, Atiq Rahman, Tavleen Singh, and to Sudhir Mishra. Thank you. And to our audience, see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.